Mr. Ronnie Stowers, it's Thursday.
Ron, thank you.
Yeah, I
Yes,
never
it
call
is.
you Ronnie Stowers. I don't know why that's the first thing that came out of my head. But happy Thursday to you, sir.
Thank you. Happy Thursday to you and everyone else.
You got your beer in hand?
I have my Miami Marlins beer cup in hand.
Well,
Go
cheers.
Marlins.
Cheers, cheers. Well, welcome
Cheers.
everyone. If you're joining us, we're live. Ron and I go live every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern, and we're talking about a whole bunch of things today. We've got a fun from the gut from Dave. I'll get into what we're talking about in just a second, and a few topics, some random fire topics, and Ron's rant, which is my favorite part of the show. But welcome to you. I'd love to hear some great comments and insights. If you have any, drop them in the comment chat on any of our Little Nessie channels, and we'll do our best to respond to them. And we'll pick the best, most engaging, most thought-provoking 3 questions, and you get to choose from one of our dozen loan officer t-shirts. So throw those in there if you have any comments. Any thoughts, Ron?
No, I'm ready to go. We got a ton of topics. We started on time. We're going to finish on time. Let's let it roll.
Let's do it. So first section, from the gut, my kind of monologue every week. I'm talking about branding, rebranding, brand refresh. I'll talk about HBO, MSNBC, who's now going to be MS Now, and I'm even going to throw some Cracker Barrel in there as well. And then we're going to get to our first main topic of the day, which is what we're talking about, Ron.
Yep, we're going to talk about real estate agent productivity, average pay, how pay has moved since the NAR settlement. So all sorts of good insights here.
Yep. And then we're going to move to this.
Yeah, and that is really based on a Wall Street Journal article talking about how Americans have stopped moving, they've stopped changing jobs, and with that lack of mobility, is American dynamicism dying? So we're going to talk about that as it applies to real estate and mortgage.
And then our last major of the 3 topics.
Yes, which is going to be it's going to be early Ron's rant, but what's the reality about credit card debt in America?
Yeah, and then we're going to move to your rant, which is on what?
Yeah, Ron's rant. It's not really a rant. It's going to be encouragement. Surprisingly, it's going to be super positive. Just we have a dip in interest rates coming. What does that mean? How long will we have them? And what should we do?
Yeah, well, cool. Let's get into it. So we're going to start off with from the gut, from yours truly. All right.
I like the intro music.
What's that?
I like the new intro music for your From the Gut.
It's been the same one for the last 2 weeks or so.
Well, maybe I started happy hour early. Maybe I started happy hour early last.
All right. So this week I'm giving a little bit of my insights on rebranding, because we are watching some big name brands out there right now making some weird moves. MSNBC just dropped. Oh, I'm trying to show a slide here. Let me get it. That's what happened. I was trying to show a slide. There we go. So MSNBC. I can't get this right, Ron.
It's all right. It reminds me when you showed, the Sweeney commercial 12 times.
There we go. I finally got it. So NBC, they just dropped the NBC, and they're now calling itself MS Now. Cool name, maybe, if you're launching a productivity app, but as a news outlet, for me, it feels kind of vague, a little off brand, honestly, kind of desperate. If the goal was clarity, I think for me, they landed closer to confusion. And we all know the debacle over the last, I don't know, about 18 months, maybe 2 years with HBO. For me, it feels like they're just throwing darts at the wall. It was HBO, then it became HBO Max. Then they cut out the most recognizable part and just called it Max. And somewhere along the line, I don't even know what HBO Go. I think it's when it's tied to just regular cable. Somewhere along the line, HBO Go came into it. Now they've gone back to HBO Max and they've been getting hammered. And to me, it wasn't really I wouldn't describe it as a rebrand. I'd call it more of brand whiplash. And even 2 days ago, this company, they've been in the news a little bit. Cracker Barrel, they announced their rebrand as well, minimizing. You can see the logo here, but they're minimizing not just the logo, but in their restaurants, they're minimizing the Americana feel, and they're also getting hammered just since the announcement. But I think it was 2 days ago. They've erased $250 million in value, and since the new CEO came on board, I don't know exactly when that was. They've dropped $587 million in value. So, what is my point? Slapping on a new name or logo doesn't fix deeper brand issues. If you're if your audience doesn't understand who you are or why you're changing, you're just creating noise more than anything else. Now, here's the thing, rebranding, I've done it myself several times for individuals, for companies. It can be a very powerful thing. And so can a brand refresh, but they are two different things. A brand refresh, it's more cosmetic. You're updating the look, maybe a new logo, new typeface or fonts, new colors. You're giving it a fresh coat of paint. Still the same house, you're just modernizing it. A rebrand, though, instead of a refresh, is when you realize that the house itself doesn't work anymore. Maybe the layout's wrong. It doesn't fit the way you live or your family or how you're trying to uh, the people you're trying to serve. So you tear it down to the studs and you rebuild with intention. I've helped people and companies through both. One of my recent clients, they just needed to show up better online. He didn't need a full overhaul. His business was already strong. He's a phenomenal loan officer, one of the top loan officers in the country. He just needed to look like someone that people would remember and trust. So we gave him a visual identity that felt a little bit more modern, clean, and true to who he already was. And that's all it really took. That's a brand refresh. But I've also had clients where they were in a different spot. Their brand was tied too closely to their name. I'm going through this process with a team, with an individual right now. And as they started to build the team and growing, that name became a limiter. When someone new joins their team and they have to explain that, I'll make up names, it's the David King under the David King team, under the Ron Stowers team, who fall under ABC Mortgage Company, it can get confusing fast. In those cases, we weren't just updating visuals or in the process of updating visuals, excuse me, we're repositioning their entire brand to make room for growth. And that's the difference. A refresh makes what's already working look better. A rebrand is what you do when what's working won't scale. Now both can carry risk. You can't just change the name and expect everyone to fall in love with it. MS Now, getting hammered. HBO Max, we're getting hammered. Cracker Barrel. So it's not going to fix it instantly. However, initial reactions, they can be brutal and sometimes, but they can sometimes be misleading. In my past, one of the companies I worked for, when I branded or rebranded New American Mortgage to Movement Mortgage, the pushback was real. It was also brutal at first. People didn't get it. One of the oh gosh, I don't know if I should say this. Couple comments that I got. Some people said it sounds like a bowel movement or it sounds like a small brokerage. So they didn't really get it and they thought that it sounded strange. But we had a vision, we had a strategy, and over time the brand caught on and it is now one of the top lenders, I believe top 5 retail lenders. It became something and is something that people respected and rallied behind. So no, early feedback like maybe Cracker Barrel is getting right now, it's not everything, but confusing your audience or not understanding your audience or solving a messaging problem with just a design update, that's where brands can fall apart. So here's the key takeaway. If your positioning is off, if your structure doesn't support your goals anymore, or if your brand name is standing in the way of growth, you rebrand. If your message still holds up, but you're feeling outdated or inconsistent, refresh. Did that with Homeowners Financial Group. but don't do either just to look busy. Do it with purpose, do it with clarity, because a rebrand done right builds momentum. A rebrand done wrong can just make people miss the old version. Ron, your thoughts?
No, I love all that, David. And I've been at a couple of companies that you rebranded, and you are a master at it. You know what feels like right now is companies are rushing to rebrand themselves. You know, XYZ.ai. It's like there's a rush to be the technology company. Matter of fact, at the AI summit last week in Dallas, one of the major vendors just announced total rebranding, and it was either like Ice or Dark Knight. It was one of those two, and it looked good, but it had their whole rebranding was about capturing the feeling of having better technology, AI. Like it had movement and dynamicism. They're getting away from like stale and stoic type of brands. Any thoughts about that?
What what was their what do you think their main purpose for rebranding was?
I think it was trying to capture that they're a leading technology company,
Yeah.
and I think so many companies are. I mean, even there's so many banks and lenders that are starting to either try to get AI or a feeling of technology, a feeling of the future versus the past into their brand, message. And it's like there's an urgency to do that, so you're not being left behind, whether it's true or not true.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm surprised they don't have AI mortgage yet.
there's many reasons to go through a rebrand. I think the first major one I did, like I said, was Movement, and they were changing a name. Their core business wasn't changing, but they were changing the name. There's a million mortgage companies or insurance companies or tax companies with America in its name, and it's just one. It doesn't really stand out. So nothing wrong with New American Mortgage, but not very memorable. And there's a million of them. Uh, there's many different reasons to rebrand. And if you're switching gears, you're going from a news company to an AI company. Absolutely. Who was it that you said? Was it ICE?
I think it was either Ice or Dark Knight. I can't remember off the top of my head. I should have looked it up,
Hmm.
but it was nice. I mean, what they added a lot of movement into their brand image. I mean, and the way the movement was like not stars, but it was like stars shooting out of their brain, like we're going forward. Like we're a technology company now.
Yeah.
I think is what they're trying to emote.
Yeah. Well, let's get on to our first topic. Let's bring it up. So our first topic, ooh, this is a doozy, Ron. NAR, the announcements they made, all the changes. Lead the way on this one.
Yeah, you know what, David? Every time I read this annual survey, and it's NAR's report on how much real estate agents earn is really what it's how much business they do and how much they earn. And so if we go to the first slide, David, you'll see that the average real estate agent closes about 10 deals a year. So about 10 deals a year. And they break it down, 5% do zero, 27% do 1 to 5, another 23% do 6 to 10, and so forth. So you can kind of see their volume, which gives you the perspective going into the next slide, which to me is always just almost shocking when we look at what their income is. And you may or may not be able to see this clearly on our screen, but here's what it's
Zoom in.
saying. The median income for a real estate agent working full time in the United States is $58,100.
Hmm.
And that's not so shocking in nature. But when you look at it for the average agent working full time, in the United States, they earn $8,100 the first 2 years. So if you're a new agent, you're earning $8,000 a year. And by the way, your expenses wipe out all that income. And then once you graduate to year three, year 3 to 5, you graduate to making $42,500. And then once you've been in the business 6 years or more, you earn 70,000. And for those agents that working over 16 years, they average almost 79,000. But that is such a little amount for how hard they have to work. And by the way, this is a median, not average, because average would raise it up because the top 10% of the agents are doing over 50% of the business and they're making a tremendous amount of money. And that would really skew these averages would be much higher than the median. But it still strikes me. And I always, when I see this every single year, I just have sympathy. Like, I wanna, back, I was a street loan officer, just like most people listening to this. My referral partners were real estate agents, and I go back, man, I wanna help them. Like, how can I help? And that's the thing that loan officers, we need to quit asking for the business from them and start generating business for them. And I don't mean by having higher capture conversion. I mean by going outside, getting to the consumer, and starting to generate business for them. And then one last thing, Dave, and then I'm gonna want your feedback before the next slide. But the average expense for a real estate agent, the average expense is around $20,000 a year. Now, most of it they write down their car, but so they earn 58,000, and their take home is 36,600. So not a lot. They have a huge expense, and it's just, to me, it's surprising. David, what do you think?
I was shocked. You shared these slides with me yesterday, and I was shocked because I think how many licensed real estate agents are there in the U.S.
I don't know about licensed real estate agents, but there's about 1.2 million realtors, people
Realtors?
that belong to NAR, and
Right.
and I think realtors are 60%. So we could do the math.
Yeah, yeah. So I was shocked knowing how many people are real estate agents. My wife has a cousin who's a real estate agent. I know tons of real estate agents, and it seems like or at least in the past, this seemed like a very sexy career to have. You're kind of your own boss. You make up your own hours. Um, but I was wondering after learning these numbers that the average income, the average commission was way lower than I thought. So what is it that you think has driven so many people to get their license? Is it lifestyle? Because you hear about people bragging about how much they made or whatever. I think Selling Sunset, the Netflix documentary where they're selling $30 million homes glorified it or whatever. But obviously that's niche. That's not the norm. But what is it that you think that drives so many people to want to be a real estate agent? Is it lifestyle? Because the average annual salary or commissions is not worth it.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of things. I think one, when people enter the real estate trade, they're not looking at, gosh, my average income for the next 2 years is going to be 8,000. They're going to go, look at those boneheads making millions.
Yeah.
Like, I can do better than that bonehead I'm seeing on TV. And
Right.
so there's a huge upside, and that's super alluring, right? And then there's other things. There's a lot of freedom. You don't have a boss. You're self-employed, so you work when you want. Nobody tells you what to do. If you're a single mom with kids, you can be a real estate agent and still be home to pick them up from school or be at the little league games on the weekend. And that, I think, so that flexibility and freedom is alluring. There's a very low bar of entry. You got to take a class, pass the test, and now you're a real estate agent. And what happens with real estate agents when they first get into business, they have their most success because they essentially get their first few deals from family and friends. But that is not a sustainable business model. And so once they get through their first, welcome year, and they might do one, two, three, four, five transactions, like, this is the best thing in the whole world, until their family runs out of referrals, and now they have to go out into the mainstream and fight to win deals. And then that's when they hit kind of the skids for a couple of years where they have to learn how to go earn business and provide value. And then from then, it's a super tough market too. We're seeing purchase transactions decline. We're seeing some erosion. We're going to talk about it next. A little bit of erosion in commissions, and the expenses are going up. It's a tough business, but if you're great, the promise of being able to make a ton of money is worth the risk for most people that are entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Would you say we'll move to the next slide here in just a second, but would you say the early 2000s, 2001 to 3 is when flipping houses really became like a thing where it seemed, if my memory serves me correct, this is 22-ish years ago, but would you say that's when flipping houses really took off?
Yeah, I think really speculative buying really happened 2005, 2004, 2005, 2006, leading up to the great financial recession. Because anybody could get a loan, 100% financing, stated income on an investment property, a speculative business was booming. And then again, after it, we had 40% short sales and foreclosures. There was another boom in selling houses because there was a ton of houses to sell. at a discount. And real estate agents were agnostic. If they were selling a house that they had previously sold for a million and now they're selling for 500,000, they don't care. It's going to be another commission. Not that they
Yeah.
did something wrong. It's created a lot of opportunity. And then we had just a boon for, just for a decade, and up until 2022, when we slammed the brakes on, we pulled so much demand, so much demand forward, in 2020, 2021, that really sucked the market dry for 22, 23, and 24, 25. But let's go to the next slide. The next slide, we can go back to this blast
Ron,
past.
I'm
This
not
isn't a big,
I'm not sure if you knew this about me, but that time frame, that era, 2002 or 3, I got my when real estate was just going bananas. I became a licensed appraiser. I don't think you knew that. I think I forgot that about
oh,
myself.
you'd be a great appraiser.
Oh, I don't know about that. But
Yeah,
random
yeah. And
fact.
appraisers have a lot of problems. We can make that a topic. This is just break down their expenses. Seeing no big deal. Average is $8,000. No big deal. Mostly the car. Let's go to the next one because here's the other part of the topic really. And this right. And so the first thing we were doing, we were showing data from a NAR report. This is actually a Redfin report that came out just a couple of days ago. And what this shows is that when the NAR changed the rules about commingling commissions, we all thought the sky was falling and agent commissions were going to just drop to the floor, and agents wouldn't be able to defend their commissions once the buyers knew they had to pay for them. But you can see that before the changes went into effect, when they were announced, average commissions for buyers were 2.43. And then and then you saw they dropped. They're not substantially, as you noted, David. They dropped to a floor of 2.36. But the good news is that they're rebounding now, and they're back at 2.43. And so the unmingling of commissions hasn't really harmed buyers agents. Now, I would speculate that's mostly because there's been a lot of attrition with agents, and so probably the least talented, least valuable have left the business, which leads to more valuable, more talented in the business. And those people are not willing to work for less. And so they're holding the line on their commissions. That has probably a lot to do with it. In this report, this Redfin report, by the way, it also gave you the commission totals by tranche. So 0 to 500, 500 to a million and above. And there is some differences in the commission rates for those three tranches, but really interesting report by Redfin.
Yeah, I asked you the question, Ron. Let's go back to that slide. I asked you the question about that only showed data going back to 2023. And I was curious about, all right, so we've seen a dip and it's back up, but what did it look like 5, 10, 15 years prior to that? And I think you told me that it's pretty much been flat forever.
Yeah, the prior 15, 20 years were very flat, very,
Right.
very flat with very little change.
I mean, if you zoomed
Yeah.
out, if you showed a scale from 2 to 5%, that would even this would even look flat because we're only talking about 2.36 to 2.43.
Yeah, and there's an argument to be made that some of this, some of the erosion in commissions has been more due to purchase price than anything else. Because a lot of times, both an agent and a buyer looks at it as a whole dollar amount. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I'm going to pay my buyer's agent $50,000. What do they do?
Yeah.
And the agent might look at it like, hey, I got to make at least 20,000. And so that's what happens in the $1 million range. The average commission is like 2.21. It's because they're looking at it from a dollar amount, not a percentage amount. And then the same thing happens for lower price homes. Agents charge more because they're like, I'm not going to do this for $2,000. You're going to have to pay me my full commission.
Yeah.
And I think that's what has more pressure, pushing down commissions than actually, anything else, in my
So
opinion.
remind me what the average annual commission is for a real estate agent?
How much earnings? It's
Yeah, or
$58,000.
58,000. So I'm not a math guy. You are. What is the math
Yeah,
on the 2.36 versus the 2.43 on 50, you say 56,000? What's the math?
58,000. Well, so you can look at it this way: if they sell 10 homes, the average home price is 300,000. That means it's $3 million. And if you're looking at a tenth of a point in commissions, you're looking at about the difference is not. It's about $3,000 for a
Yeah,
tenth of a point for every
sure.
tenth of a point.
Sure. and
you
it's
know.
bounced back pretty quick. But I think that was all of our
Yeah.
slides on that topic. So you ready to bounce to topic number two?
Our slides and a little math test. Yeah, I'm ready. Let's go.
Pop
Keep it
quiz.
moving. This is kind of like a dramatic picture. I like it. And this, as we talked about before, speaks to a recent Wall Street Journal article. And I think the name of the article was "Nobody's buying homes, nobody's switching jobs, and Americans' mobility is stalling." And the subtitle was "Is American Dynamicism Dead?" And it was a really interesting article. At least I found it really interesting. And it first said, hey, people are moving a lot less. And to put it in perspective, and this, Dave, I know you found this surprising as I did. In the 1940s and 1950s, 1 out of 5 Americans moved every year, or 20% of the country moved every year. And it made sense because they were moving to go find work to feed their families, right? And they were moving wherever they had to move. They might move from, New Jersey to Kansas or wherever they had to, they would be very mobile, and 20% of the country would move every year. And as that's gone along, now we're flash forward, it's like 8%, and I'm giving away, the line here, but it's dramatically decreased, and it really accelerated starting about 5 years ago, contrary to what we think. And so if you look at the next slide, if you pull up the first slide, you'll see here in this chart, you'll see that right here, you can see the total amount of movers. And there's two things that are happening, Dave. Not only are far fewer people moving, you can see here in 1995 on this chart, it shows about 16% of Americans were moving. But by 2023, that number is now, it's actually below 8%, it's 7.8%. That's crazy because people aren't moving. And not only are they not moving, when they move, they're staying in the same county. They're no longer moving states over or cross country. It's just not happening that often, right? You can see only like 1.5% of people actually move to a different state, which is incredible, right? And it's just a change of makeup. Now, the article goes into why are all the reasons why people aren't moving, and they all make sense. First is they cite is, look, in today's world, we have, two income families. That means you have two wage earners, and it's harder to get both wage earners to be able to move, right? Like one might be able to get a transfer to New Jersey, but that doesn't mean the other one can, because that company may not allow it. And so it's harder to transfer and to move if you're a two income family. And then the second thing is, with so much remote work and work from home, you now pick the place that move that makes best sense to you, the one that has the best community, the one you're closest to your family, the one that has the best cost of living, because it doesn't matter where you live. You can work in the next state over or the next country over from your house anywhere. And so by being able to work remotely, this is another thing that they said. It's eroded the ability of people to move. And then the third thing is, which is really interesting, so you have remote work, but the opposite is true. With people forcing people back to work now, back to the office, that you can't live just anywhere, so you have to live close to the company you're at. And that really gets us to the next part of the topic, which is a large part of the reason why people aren't moving is because they're not changing jobs. If you don't have to change jobs, you're not likely to go ahead and move. And the next slide here shows just how much people aren't changing jobs, how much has changed. And
Can I
so,
ask a couple things
and just
on that last slide, Ron?
yeah, yeah,
Let's
please
go
go right
back to
ahead.
that last slide. So you brought up, work from home, obviously is a factor now, but that graph started dipping back in 1994 or so. Work from home has only been a thing for the last 3, 4 years. Um, and I was shocked when I saw this. So if you take out work from home, the other big factor is most households have two earners now. But there's got to be, I'm shocked because I've moved around a decent amount from Oklahoma, Virginia, Carolinas, California, back to Carolinas. So I was shocked at this. So take out work from home because that's only the last 3, 4 years. Um, I don't know.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
you also have affordability is a big issue,
Mm.
and you now have the lock-in effect. People that have a 3% interest rate, and in the article, the Wall Street Journal highlighted a family that bought a starter home with like 2 bedrooms, and they were going to move as soon as they had kids. They've now had 3 kids, and they're still living in the same 2-bedroom home because they have a 3% interest rate. And to move, they'd have to buy a house that's twice as expensive with double the interest rates. And it's just not, they're going to make it work out instead.
But that's only relevant for the last 3, 4 years as well though, right?
Yeah, but you can see the curve, the trend curve is steepening. The thing that, to your point, David, that I'm totally surprised about, and during the pandemic, all we heard about is people moving to remote areas, right? Right, everybody's moving to their favorite place or to Florida or to wherever. This chart doesn't really show it. It shows a little blip up in total movers in 2021, but not really as significantly as it felt like when we were
Right.
living it. To that part, I would have thought there was a lot more mobility back in the pandemic because it felt like everybody was moving to Idaho. I mean, I don't know, half the state of California felt like it moved to Idaho or to Texas or to Florida, but it doesn't really show in the data. It just, I think there's long-term trends that are happening that we get away from the sexy noise. It's just an interesting thing.
Yeah.
And this is, I mean, people are not changing jobs as often. We had during the pandemic when people are getting paid massive amounts of money to jump, but by and large, we're moving around less. And so with that, we're not taking better opportunities cross country and we're not moving. Interesting article though.
Yep. Yeah, I also shocked about that one because I read headlines or being at companies and in a leadership position, you've read the articles, heard the chatter that just people aren't as committed to companies that they used to be. Maybe I'm going too far back, going back to the 50s and 60s when, someone would work at the factory for 20, 30 years. So maybe I'm going too far back, but I've seen headlines and articles of just employees just aren't as committed, for right or wrong, just aren't as committed and loyal to their companies anymore.
Yeah, I don't think this is a behavioral thing, David, because I don't think people have the same commitment as, say, our parents did. It's more an opportunity thing.
Yeah.
Today they're scared of leaving their job because they're not certain how secure the job they're getting or the company. And so they'd rather stick with their tenure and know they still have a job. And that fear in the employment market is driving that more than anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to talk about credit card debt?
I love to talk about it. It'll be a precursor to my rant that has nothing to do with credit card debt. I love this topic. David, where do we start? Here's why I rant about this. I can't help but rant about it. We hear all this huge headline news, negative news. There's more credit card debt in America than ever, and so we must be all going to hell in a handbasket, and that it's out of control, and Americans are irresponsible spenders, and it's just going to be the end of everything we know. And it couldn't be more false when you look at the data. It couldn't be more 100% horse crap, honestly. It's true, that we have more debt than ever, and I'm gonna get tell you why in a second. But let's even look at it logically. Yeah, we have more debt than ever, more credit card debt than ever because we have more citizens than ever, right? We have a lot more people living in the country, a lot more people using credit cards, so we have more debt. On top of that, things are more expensive, right? And so we have more people and things are more expensive, so we have more credit card debt. But that's not the way to look at it at all. And I'm gonna get to the heart of my rant right now. Here's another thing. When we say there's $1.2 trillion in credit card debt, that is all horse pucky too, because that is the monthly debt before payment, right? And so that is the debt issued out on the credit card statement before payment. But the majority of Americans pay their credit cards off to zero every month. And so if you looked at the actual credit carried on credit card debt, it's a fraction of what's reported as the actual credit card debt, and which is just nonsense. And so we're going to look at a couple of charts here that just support the nonsense of this. And my favorite analyst that reports on this or economist is Wolf Richter and Wolf Street. And he eviscerates this topic every single month, just eviscerates it. So here's the first thing. This is delinquency rates on total debt, right? And it's still very low. If you David, if like you said, if we could widen this camera out, we've seen the debt hit like delinquencies hit like 12%, 13%. This is very low. And if we keep going, let's, because we don't need to stick on this one because the other charts are much more poignant in my
Next slide.
opinion.
What is the
I love that we have
what's that?
I love that we have next slide. I love that.
What
All right. So yeah.
I was gonna ask a question though. You say it's the amount the amount is so high because we have more people in the country now. But what is that still true when you take it to the average per person?
Yeah, I think that the average credit card debt per capita, which I have not seen the chart on, but I think it's near historic lows or like
Wow.
multi-decade lows.
Yeah, yeah.
And by the way, we just went through that the delinquency rates. The a 30-day delinquency rate on credit cards right now are at 2.87%,
Hmm.
which is the lowest they've been in a few years, and it's fairly low. The 60-day delinquency rate, by the way, is at 2.79%, and that's for all. And you got to understand, some credit cards are subprime, and the definition of subprime is that people aren't going to pay their credit card bill on time, and so that includes subprime credit card holders. The total 60 days is 2.79%, and if you looked at prime holders of credit cards, their delinquency rate of any sort is less than 1%. It's like 0.93%, like which is a historic low. So if you look at the healthy users of credit card debt, there's virtually no delinquencies. And if you look at healthy and unhealthy, it's at 2.79. It's totally small. And then if you look at the actual credit card balances here, credit card balances, I think they increased it by about $40 billion year over year. It's about 6.7% total year over year. But once again, prices have increased more than that. That's why you spend more. And in interesting, here's another thing. And so this chart right here shows both credit card balances and other consumer loans, which is buy whatever that payment plan. But what is it called? Buy as you rent as you pay or whatever. All types of unsecured debt is included in both of them. And combined, we're at historic lows, which is really, really interesting. And so, here's
Are
another thing,
are
David.
auto loans, Ron, considered consumer loans?
No, those are not considered consumer loans.
No. Okay.
No, no, because you have collateral.
Oh, okay.
Um, but but here's another thing, and David, that we got to think about. Another thing that's happened is we have a structural change in how people make payments. Back when my parents, they used cash or check.
Hmm.
When I was in college, we used debit cards, right? Debit cards and cash. Today, most Americans use a credit card to make their payment, right? It's simply a payment vehicle. It is not a debt vehicle. It is so important to differentiate that. And I can't say that enough. Let's go to the next let's go to the next
We
chart.
just got a comment from Dave Ramsey on Facebook, and he disagrees with you, Ron.
He also says don't buy houses unless you buy from one of the companies that pay tens of millions of dollars a year.
Yeah,
I'm a Dave Ramsey fan too, by the way,
I
but
am too.
I disagree with him quite a bit. All right, this is how you got to look at credit card debt. It's no more complicated than this. Look at outstanding debt for credit card and other unsecured debt, right? Versus your disposable income. It's just like qualifying for a house. What's the DTI? And if you look at it from the
Mm.
DTI, it's at a historic low. The DTI on outstanding debt right now is like around 6.7%, nominal, or 6.6%. It's nominal, right? We're not overspending. If based on what our incomes are, as you can see in this chart, we're spending less on debt than ever. It's just unbelievable. And so these headlines drive me batty. They really do. And by the way, and Wolf Richter, he's using, like I said, data from the New York Fed. It's not like he's using cheap data. He's using the real data, right? And yet we're following all the wrong noise on this.
Did it
Any
drop
thought?
so low in 2021 just because no one was spending anything during COVID? Is that right?
Two things happened. One, people couldn't go out to dinner and do their normal lifestyle things. They couldn't travel, so they were spending less. And second, the government was shoveling as much cash as they could to Americans, and they were using that cash to pay down their debt.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so they're catching up on their credit cards. But let's go see what this next. I love this next slide too. Uh, And this slide's my favorite. So one
Mm.
thing, banks have just been really pressing the gas on trying to get people to use credit more. They've increased the available credit by 75%. So there's $4 trillion of available credit card, credit in America, and yet we're at $1.2 trillion, of which well over half is paid off every month. And so Americans are not being crazy drunken sailors spending a ton of money. They're not even spending all the money that banks are trying to encourage them to spend. Uh, and and why this is so important, David, and why I rant against this frequently, is that the American consumer, they hear all these headline news about debt out of control, and they're like, oh yeah, I have credit card debt. I probably can't buy a house, because it's really bad, and they get seduced into this bad message that starts to work on their psyche to not buy a house. And we need to pierce that. We absolutely need to pierce that. And we need to evaluate their situation, and we need to coach them on how to be able to attain the American dream home ownership responsibly. But we need to break down these walls of misinformation and try to pierce through their fear so they can make a good decision for them and their families. And that's why I just think real estate agents, loan officers, we need to be armed with this information, and we need to take this as hogwash. Go, I don't accept that at all. Don't tell me that we're overburdened, that we have too much debt. Don't tell me that. I don't believe it. You're sending the wrong message out there. Anyway, this isn't even my rant. I told you it'd be
Yeah,
my pre-rant.
it sounds like your rant. My daughter McKenna's 23. I swear, and we get all of her mail at our house. I swear she gets two credit card offers every single day. American Express is the biggest culprit. It's crazy how much is out there. I don't know if that's just anecdotal, uh, but it's crazy how much we're seeing right now.
Well, I'd be eager to rent, I'd be eager to have somebody get a credit card and pay 28% when I have, 3% late payments. I mean, what the heck? There's no risk. People are
Yeah,
making payments. So I'd want, if I was a bank, I'd want McKenna to spend as much as she could, because there's no evidence that she's not going to make the dang payment, you
right,
know?
right. Did we have any more slides on that one, or is that it?
That's it. That's
No, I
it.
think we got one more.
All
No,
right. Let's
that's it.
see.
I think that's it.
That's
You
it.
ready? You ready for Ron's rant?
Yeah. I feel like I already just kicked my rant in, but I'm
You
ready.
did.
And that's
But
why
cute, huh? What
that's
were you
why
gonna?
I'm going to have Ron's rant. I'm at Ron's encouragement
All
instead of
right.
Ron's
Cue
rant.
the bumper. Ron's rant.
I get a bumper?
There we go. Yes,
Is that
Ron, you
like
do
supposed
get a
is that
bumper.
is that bumper music, that's supposed to calm me down so I don't, start spitting at the screen or anything?
No, the beer's supposed to calm you down.
Well, I need to speed it up. All right, so we got my Ron's rant image. There we go. Thank you. So you know what? We are nicely in a little bit of a bond market rally where we're seeing interest rates fall. We're probably going to see them fall just a little bit more, and that's all welcome news. And of course, we all want to be like Barry Beam and hope we're going to get that back down to 3% someday, or 4% or whatever we're preaching right now. But here's the cold water I have for real estate agents and loan officers. This reprieve is probably a temporary reprieve, and only a temporary reprieve. If you ask me, almost all believable, responsible economists believe that there's a lot of upward pressure on interest rates. I'm not going to go into that as part of this rant, because that's not my message today. But just know, if you looked at the leading economists in the United States, the leading economists in the world, they believe there's upward pressure on long-term interest rates, period. So we're having a little bit of a dip, which is great. And, we're going to see the short end of the curve, the overnight cost of funds. We're going to see a Fed cut, here in September. I don't think it's going to be 50 basis points, but it's going to be probably 25 basis points. And we might see future cuts, even in the face of growing inflation, growing debt, growing concerns. But that doesn't matter. And that irresponsibility is going to create more separation or steepness in the long end of the curve. Just like we saw in the fourth quarter of last year, when the Fed started cutting rates completely irresponsibly, that the long-term rates shot up. So as the Fed cut 100 basis points, long-term rates went up 100 basis points. And we're going to see that same kind of behavior, not immediately, but that same behavior is going to happen, which is the steepening of the long-term curve. And this is where this isn't a rant at all, it's an encouragement. Here's the thing, and I love Brian Hill termed this phrase last year, boomlets, refi boomlet. We're going to have little opportunities of refi, because we're going to have that elevator, with a yo-yo on it, where long-term interest rates may be increasing, but they're going to dip down, get upward pressure, dip down, get upward pressure. What we have to do is we have to be completely, position to be able to capitalize on those little boomlets or those downward pressures. And so we may get down to, I don't know, depending on where you work and what your stack is, 6.25, 6 1/8, somewhere in there. And it might only be momentary. It might only be for a few weeks. It is imperative that you understand your database, you understand your clients, and you have them ready to lock as soon as they get to a rate that makes sense. And so you need to have conversations. You need to have their totally approved application in the pipeline. You have to already agree to what's the minimum rate you'll take, like what's the strike price, and do I have your permission to lock it without speaking to you? Meaning, as soon as we hit that 6 3/8 or 6.25, that you're going to let me lock immediately so we don't miss it. Because when we looked at the boomlet last year, only 10% of the applications taken for refinances were actually completed because most loan officers did not lock those loans, thinking that rates would continue to improve, whether it was as directed by their clients or whether it's just understanding by the loan officer. They didn't protect that pipeline. We're going to have the same thing here where interest rates are going to dip down. And it is imperative that you have those loans this locked and loaded, ready to go. You get to the strike price, you lock it. Great. Now, let's pretend I'm wrong. Let's pretend I'm wrong and interest rates keep improving. Fine. Renegotiate with your lock desk. Or, oh, heaven knows, do another refi. Do a no-cost refi because the customer keeps getting the benefit. Great. But the worst thing is to leave your pipeline unprotected and miss the opportunity. That would be a tragedy. And so it is critical that you're on top of this because you're going to have a little bit of opportunity. And that difference for most loan officers of getting that tailwind for maybe that extra production, maybe you pick up $10 million, $15 million in some refi production with a tailwind, with dropping rates. Capturing that versus not capturing that is really the difference of you being able to be in the business past this year. It's so critical. It is so important. I cannot encourage it enough. Whether you agree with me or not, it's still the best strategy. But trust me, there are a ton of upward pressure on rates. So, Dave, that's what I got.
The phrase that comes to mind when you talk about where rates are and where you think they're going, the phrase that just comes to mind for me is date the rate, marry the house. And
You're
how
really
many, what
you're
do you
starting.
think the overall sentiment is out there for buyers that have bought in the last 4 years that bought into that philosophy?
Yeah, David, one of the topics we passed on today was oh no, we have that topic next. So I'm gonna table that because we have that topic coming up.
Rapid
So we can
fire.
revisit that. Yeah, and in rapid fire. So I'm gonna table
The
that.
topic of the question that I just asked you.
Yeah, the topic on home appreciation is totally gonna speak to date the rate, marry the
All
house.
right, then let's do our first rapid fire topic. Let's bring it up. Or I don't know if that was our first one. No, I don't think it's
It's
this one.
the third one. We'll come back to it though. All right. Oh no. Oh, we can go to this one first. So, David, because we've been on this before, and you've heard me rant about date the rate, marry the house, and you've also seen me lose my mind over 1-0 buy down, 2-1 buy downs. All those presupposed market that doesn't exist, right? Date the rate, marry the house, and a buy down all suppose that we're going to be able to refinance you because, one, your house is going to appreciate. Two, interest rates are going to go down. Three, qualifying guidelines are going to stay the same. And four, your ability to qualify isn't going to change, including your income or your credit characteristics. All four of those things line up wonderfully, and you get to date the rate and marry the house. Now, how many of those things have lined up perfectly? Maybe one, right? And 30 of the 50 major metros, home prices have gone down. They've gone down, right? By the SLU's report, credit is tighter, right? Um, uh, interest rates are not down; they're flat, depending on what interest rate you got. And so we lied when we said date the rate, marry the house. Thank you, David. I was outside my rant, but that gets us to this rapid fire, which I've already eaten up a lot of time on rapid fire. If you can go back to the chart,
Yep.
this is a really interesting thing, and then I'll kick it back to you. But here's what this says. If you look at how home appreciation since 2020, this is the average across the United States, it's up 45.7%. So if you bought a house in 2020, bought a $500,000 house, it's worth $900,000. You won. You won the lottery. Congratulations. That's great. Congratulations. But if you were chasing that dream in 2022 and you stretched by date the rate, marry the house, you got your 1-0 buy down, 2-1 buy down, your house is only appreciated 3.4%. So you are no longer dating, you are in an abusive marriage. And if you bought it in 2024, you may or may not have any equity at all. As a matter of fact, 564,000 Americans are underwater on their home. So the whole date the rate, marry the house didn't work so well. And here's about this topic why I bring it up is we have to be super careful. I believe in the dream of the American dream of homeownership. I believe it is the best path to wealth. I so believe in it, right? But we have to quit saying, hey, homeowners today have 41 times the wealth as renters. They have $410,000 in average net wealth versus a renter that has $10,000. Well, yes, they do because their house appreciated 50% in 24 months. That's what happened, right? That is atypical and will most likely never happen again. So quit offering crazy returns. Quit saying stupid things like date the rate, marry the house, right? Quit offering 1 buy downs thinking that rates are going to go down as become more affordable. Stop all that and instead be a better financial advisor on why you should buy a home. Look, homes appreciate 4.5 to 5% a year. All the other things that are so perfect about owning a home is there's a little bit of forced savings. It gives you a better standard of living. It's a place to raise families. It gives you a sense of belonging. All those things, it's a hedge against inflation. You get to set your monthly payment for the next 30 years while, the cost of apartments are going to go up. All those things are great arguments, but quit arguing you're going to be 41 times richer because that's not going to happen again. Instead, use a better metric of 4.5%, 5% a year. Anyway, this isn't a rant, Dave, so I'm going to turn it over to you.
No, I want to move on to the next topic because this one makes me salty. Um,
Oh,
I
love it.
Yeah, I bought a house in California, Southern Orange County, in 2018 and sold it in June or July of 2020. And so I just don't like that topic. I don't like talking about it. It makes me mad. It makes my blood boil every single time. So I'm ready to move on.
Yeah, let's go to a lighter topic. I mean, you segued it when you asked me that. I wasn't going to bring up date the rate, marry the house. I already pissed off enough people.
All right, where I gets its facts. I was surprised at this one, very surprised. Ron, I think you and I might show our age on this one. I don't know, but talk about it.
Yeah, yeah. I get my facts from Reader's Digest. How about you?
I don't know. YouTube, I don't know. I get them from all, but I was very surprised. So where I gets its facts. You ask AI a question, 40.1%, they're gonna reference Reddit. I was very surprised at that. I am not really a Reddit user. I might be showing my age. I don't know, but I don't find it super helpful. The platform, the UI, and so on. I find it takes way more effort to get information that you're looking for. And so I think I would fall into that number three bucket. Number two is Wikipedia, right? Yeah. And then number three
Yeah.
is YouTube. So is yeah, what are your thoughts, Ron?
I personally, and, not recently, but I just go to Google and then Google will pull up all these other, repositories of information. And, I never went on Reddit because I go to Reddit, I get confused. Like I have a question that says, oh, Reddit solved this. And I got to go like 30 different things down and it doesn't seem to apply. I don't understand it. But now I do all my search with an AI tool. I use Perplexity for all my searches, almost 100%. And it brings these things up. So now I'm getting more familiar with Reddit, but it also won't just bring me the 30 selections at Reddit that can fit. It will tell me Reddit readers say this and give it to it specifically. But yeah, I was
When
surprised.
when was
I'm
this
really
taken?
surprised.
Is it on the bottom of this slide? The date of
This
when this
poll,
report was done? Oh, Visual Capitalist 2025. Okay, that's what I was looking for. So let's go back up to the
I think
top
this was
here.
just, yeah,
Uh,
June 2025.
okay, because I guess Google now gives you AI answers, Gemini, and so on. So
Yeah.
uh, I wonder because Google probably wouldn't have been on there prior to AI because Google just leads you to other sources like Yelp or Reddit or YouTube or something. So
Well, the title would be different 5 years ago. It'd be what does Google use to get its facts?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Now it's what does AI use? But I was surprised, and Reddit's by the way, Reddit is becoming so much more valuable and popular. It's actually trying to monetize its search results now. They're trying to say we own it, you can't just mine it. We'll sell it to you. Very interesting. But I'm surprised at the importance of Reddit. And I was surprised on a couple other things in here too, where they go to get validation. And this also speaks to that SEO versus AEO versus GEO. If you got to understand where it's getting its information. If it's 40% is coming from Reddit, well, you better look at what your reviews are on Reddit, what your feedback is on Reddit, if that's how AI tools are going to find you.
Yeah. Hey, whether you're watching this now or later, I would love to hear your thoughts on this slide. Where do you get your information from? Uh, Obviously, if you're going to AI, what are the links or sources that you are most likely to get on? So we're going to send a t-shirt, whatever the most interesting, thought-provoking comment is, whether you're watching it live or later down the line, comment on it. We'll pick the most interesting, challenging, thought-provoking one, and we'll send you a t-shirt. So let's go back to it. I think we got one more rapid fire topic.
Yeah, we're running on time. We started on time, we're ending on time. Yeah.
Come
So
on.
this is another surprising data point. It's simply put, the one of the highest segments of our society that has the highest unemployment rate is new college graduates that have a 13.4% unemployment rate. It's really, really surprising. What are you doing over there, David? it's it's breaking you up. But so college grads are just having a really hard time getting jobs, and part of it is because college graduates are the easiest
I put
ones
myself
to.
on I put myself on mute. Could you hear me?
No, not at all.
I'm going to put myself on mute and clear my throat.
It sounds like you're doing hits over there. Well, when David's out there clearing his throat, I will tell you, new college graduates are having a tough time. They have 13.4% unemployment, and the actual data is for first time entrants into the job market. And the speculation is just that the jobs that entry level college people took are the easiest ones to be replaced by AI, and that AI is cheaper and more reliable, and you don't have to deal with all the growing up things that you deal with somebody that's just coming out of college. And so this is probably number is going to be a little worsen. And an adjunct topic might be, what jobs are AI going to replace, which maybe we'll add to a different show. But anyway, that's what this 13.4% number shows. McKenna, you got any thoughts on this? You're of that age. McKenna's our show producer, by the way. So McKenna, you want to join me on this? Nope, Dave's back. No McKenna.
It
right?
went down. My daughter says it went down the wrong throat, went down the wrong pipe, but that last drink just went down the wrong throat and I almost vomited. So, hey, there's your fun for today.
That would have been great if we could have kept
sweating
that.
now. Where are we at? Catch
Yeah,
me up.
We're at the outro. We decided to thank people for being here and invite them to go, subscribe to our channel, like us, get a free T-shirt. We can be bought easily. Say something nice about us, and that's where we're at.
Oh man, yeah. So there's your entertainment for the day. You almost just witnessed David King throw up live on the socials. So I kind of missed that last rapid fire topic. So that's all good. We already talked about it pre-show anyway. So hey, we appreciate you joining us. And yes, I am recovering right now, and my eyes are red, and because I literally almost threw up on camera. But
I like
hey,
you're laughing too.
What's that?
I like that you're laughing through it. It was funny.
Yeah. I just figured I'd just put myself on mute. I've got a button right here. But hey, if you've enjoyed this comment, we appreciate you. Or if you've enjoyed this comment, if you've enjoyed this show, I'm all flustered now. We appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. Even if you're watching it not live later down the road, tomorrow, a month from now, whenever, we appreciate you. Subscribe to our channels at Little Nessie. You'll find us on all the major social media sites. So with that, Ron, I enjoyed it other than the last 5 minutes.
Thank you. Hit the music.
There we go. See you.
Bye.